Hello everyone, and welcome to my review for Jujutsu Kaisen Chapter 157. Before I get into this week's review, I of course have to give a shout out to my wonderful patrons. Special thanks to Fuse, Neo, Dijon Redden, Anthony Chavez, Zach Rowetz, K-God, Chris Redfield, Scratch23, Rat, Ryzen 4K, Artist, and Wave of Manga. Thank you all very much for supporting me on Patreon. I greatly appreciate it. And if you too want to get a shout out at the start of videos, or access to reviews for solo leveling and the Boxer, you can always become a patron as well. There's a link to my Patreon down in the description. And of course, if you haven't already, you should definitely hit that subscribe button, click that notification bell so you don't miss any of my uploads, and be sure to like and leave a comment on this video to help boost us up in the algorithm. It'd be a big help. With that out of the way, let's get on with the review. Sorry this week's review is out a little later than usual. I ended up being pretty busy on Friday. Had a lot of other stuff that I was tending to, and then I ended up being busy pretty much all day yesterday. So I just really didn't have a good chance to do this review, but we're here now. I guess I'll probably have this come out at the same time as the official chapter, assuming there are no kind of complications like, I don't know, YouTube upload speeds getting really slow for some reason. Yeah, that never happens. So this week's chapter picks up right where the last one ended off, with Megumi having Kirara locked down in a hold and asking them, please listen to what I have to say. We get a little bit more insight into how Kirara's curse technique works. Essentially, whatever has more cursed energy is whatever everything else with the same mark gets pulled towards. So that's just an interesting detail, and it's very cool that Megumi figured this out on his own. Once again, if last week's chapter is any indication, it seems like Megumi is definitely one of the smarter characters in the series. I mean, Kenjaku is obviously the smartest. They've planned out a bunch of shit for 1,000 years. They're pretty much the Aizen equivalent of the series. But Megumi has got a pretty good head on his shoulders as well. Definitely the smartest of the main characters at the very least. Of course, he can't compete with Toto's 530,000 IQ, but he can come a little close. So that's just pretty cool. Now, Megumi does something very interesting here. It's a very good moment for his character. He gets off of Kirara and bows down on the ground to ask for their help in convincing Hikari. Now, this is very cool, because he opted to give up a position of strength in order to take a position of weakness to ask for help. It goes to show that Megumi did not want to fight with Kirara and Hikari when he came here. He wants their help. He does not want to force them to do anything. He wants them to be allies and work together for the Culling game. So this choice from him is a very interesting one, and it's a very good showing for his character, and it manages to convince Kirara. Fortunately, we don't have to wait very long to see them try and talk to Hikari, as Yuji gets blown out of the monitoring room, and Hikari has come out after him looking very pissed off. Hikari has taken off the big pimp coat. He's just walking around in a wife beater now, and he is beating Yuji's ass. He throws this very fucking weird punch. He hits him with, like, the bottom of his fist. He hits him with, like, his thumb and his fingers instead of hitting him with his knuckles. I think I saw someone say that's a really good way to break your fucking wrist. I don't know what the fuck Hikari was doing here. This feels like something someone in Baki would do. Baki has a lot of weird punches a lot of the time, and this kind of feels like that. But by God, do these punches pack a punch. Yuji is getting fucking blown around by these things. Hikari, at the very least, is very physically strong, which we gathered from him tanking a headbutt from Yuji with no reaction. I assume to some degree it has to do with him enhancing his body with cursed energy. We already saw Kirara is very good at doing that. So Hikari probably does that as well, but I mean, just look at the guy. He goes to the gym. So he's pretty strong already. Now, the thing is, Hikari keeps beating on Yuji, and Yuji just keeps getting up. Yuji has no intention of fighting Hikari. He doesn't plan on dodging, or blocking, or fighting back. He's going to have Hikari keep on hitting him until Hikari is willing to listen to what Yuji has to say. And Hikari is like, you know what? I respect that. That's pretty admirable. So I'll listen to what you have to say as long as you stay standing. So Kirara tries to speak to Hikari and say, hey, calm down. These kids want your help, so listen to them. And he's like, that's what I just said. I just said I'd listen to him. What are you talking about? So we get a couple fun reactions from Megumi, Kirara, and Panda, with them trying to plead with Hikari and being surprised by how cooperative he's being. Like, there's no actual persuasion involved on their part. Pretty much anything they'd ask for from him, he's already there on. So it's just kind of funny. So we get a little bit of a test here for Yuji. And I feel like this is something of a callback to the very beginning of the series. So Hikari asks Yuji, why did you come to me? We've never met before. Why did you come for my help? And Yuji gives a very bad answer. Because my upperclassman told me to. So Hikari punches him again. During this, we find out that Hikari's cursed energy is apparently rougher than other people, according to Gojo. We haven't really been told there's a quality to cursed energy, but it's one of those things where it's like, I guess I don't see why aura wouldn't have some kind of difference in texture. It's funny that this chapter came out not that long after Ban's comic started, which, by the way, you should check out the streams I've done reading that. It's pretty good. You should also, check out Ban's comic itself. I have the links to it on my Discord server, which you should join. And in his comic, there are different textures to aura. There are different types of aura. So very interesting that this came out just a few weeks after Ban's comic started. I wonder if Gege got any ideas from him. But yeah, that's just kind of a minor power system detail. I have no idea if that'll ever be relevant for any other character in the series or how it will relate to Hikari's curse technique, which we still don't find out more about this chapter. I assume we're going to wait for that, which is fine. It probably is a better idea and makes more sense for Hikari to show what he can really do in an actual fight against someone who's, actually his enemy. So Hikari is very unpleased with Yuji's answer. He finds the idea that someone would come to him just because someone else told them to be insulting. There's no kind of fever, there's no passionate motivation in that. And this is something that Hikari feels Yaga was supposed to weed out for new Jujutsu students. Now, if you recall, all the way back in Chapter 3, or the second episode of the anime, Yaga was not very impressed with Yuji's answer that he was going to exercise curses because his grandfather told him to help people. You're going to kill curses and suffer and maybe die because someone else told you to? Bad answer. You fail. And the same thing happens here. Now, I'm wondering if Hikari has some kind of respect for Yaga, and also, if Hikari knows that Yaga's dead. That's gonna be a little rough if he doesn't know that already. The way he says it, like, what is old Yaga doing? It implies that he thinks Yaga is still alive, so that's gonna be a little rough when the time comes. It will be interesting to see, what Hikari's relation to Yaga is, what kind of terms they were on, because we get little hintings to Hikari's time at Jujutsu Tech, and it's really interesting, the little details we get. We'll get into them in a little bit, but I'm quite excited to get some kind of Hikari flashback in the near future. So, Yuji says in response to Hikari that he doesn't have a fever, he doesn't have any kind of passion or motivation, because he's a cog. He's a cog for sorcerers to continue exercising curses. Now you watched my reaction to this chapter, which you should go do. I got very excited in this moment. The most excited I've been in a little bit, surprisingly enough, because this cog metaphor was something that Yuji started spouting about in chapter 132, the chapter where he beat Mahito. Another chapter you should go watch my reaction to, because that is probably the most hyped I've ever been reading a chapter of Jujutsu Kaisen, and the whole speech on being a cog was very interesting, and very depressing to show, kind of how little Yuji values himself as an individual now, values his life. It's pretty cynical and depressing. And Hikari himself finds that motivation kind of boring. So Hikari smacks Yuji around again. And when he thinks it's over, he turns around, tells Megumi and Panda to take their friend and get lost, but Yuji has already gotten up behind him, and Hikari's kind of freaked out about this. And I would be too. The way Yuji got up and stood behind him was really fucking freaky. So I really can't blame Hikari for that one. So Yuji keeps spouting on about the cog thing, and he says that my role is to exercise curses, and if I need your help to do that, I'm going to follow you everywhere until you say yes to helping me. I don't give a shit. I'll keep doing it as long as I have to. So, what's your role, senpai? So we don't get an answer from Hikari, but he's kind of confused as to if fever can burn in the eyes of a cog, because you do see in Yuji's eyes, there is light in it, there is a fire, a determination, and this is very weird, because someone who doesn't really value themselves as a person, they just kind of see themselves as a cog in the machine, you wouldn't think they would be very passionate, and yet, Yuji does seem to have some kind of fever towards it. So, it's an interesting dynamic. I'm wondering how Hikari is going to play into this in the future. It does seem like Hikari is going to be the new sort of mentor figure for Yuji. He's had a few. The first one was Gojo, then Nanami, then Todo. Seems like the new one may be Hikari, which would be pretty interesting. So maybe Hikari is going to be the guy who is like, hey Yuji, this worldview, this view of yourself is kind of depressing and unhealthy. You should probably, stop thinking that shit. By the way, my cat is here now, and he insists on crawling around everywhere and making a bunch of cat noises. Well, he hasn't made any yet, but who knows what'll happen. So, if there are any sudden cat noises, that is the source. So, Hikari is like, listen man, I'm just gonna keep hitting you, until Kirara points out, you're getting pretty heated up right now, aren't you? And Hikari admits to himself, I can't lie to my fever. I cannot deny the fever I'm feeling right now because of this fucking guy. So he says, alright, fuck it. Come on down. We can make a deal. So the problem's solved. That was easy, I guess. It just kind of took figuring out a really confusing curse technique, and Yuji getting his ass kicked. Not too shabby, if I don't say so myself. And we got a little interesting tidbit from Kirara, that apparently the time in which Hikari had the greatest fever, when his fever was at its peak, was when he was helping people at the high school. So that's just a pretty nice little tidbit there. Makes me feel very nice. Makes me feel very confident that Hikari is indeed a pretty good guy. And I'm very excited to see what that is. What did Hikari helping people at the high school look like? We know him and Kirara don't like the higher-ups for various reasons. I assume he doesn't like them because they're fucking idiot assholes. That's probably a good enough reason. Hikari is not a dumb guy, even if he's apparently not very good at paying attention in school based on the data book or fan book, whatever the fuck it was. So, yeah, I'm pretty interested in seeing more about him. We also get a very interesting little panel here. It's the original look for Hikari, but in the current art style. Now, this is nice. This is pretty good. We do basically get confirmation that Hikari dyed his hair, sometime after him being suspended. So it's just cool to see basically the same shot of Hikari, but with the updated art style, so he looks more like how he actually looks now. Just pretty neat. I like it a lot. So now we have to wonder, is this little Hikari arc over, the Hikari recruitment arc, is this over? Are we going to get one more chapter out of it? I don't know. I do think maybe next chapter could be dedicated at least partially to whatever deal we're going to make with Hikari. That'll be interesting, seeing whatever terms and conditions he's going to have. I assume they're going to be mildly restrictive for our main characters, but in one way or another, Hikari's going to be helping out, and he's going to be relative in the Culling game. Also, hopefully, Kirara will be relevant in some way too, because they're pretty cool. I want to learn more about them and Hikari. So, we're going to learn at least a little bit about that, I think. If not, well, either way, whether we do, whether we don't, whenever this Hikari thing is over, we're going to check on Yuta next, I think. Because Yuta is the other party that left from Tengen's sanctuary to go and do stuff in relation to the Culling game. And I'm fairly confident that what's going to be going on with Yuta is he's going to walk into one of the colonies, everyone's going to be dead, except for one really strong dude. Whether it be a curse user or a curse, going to be a really strong thing that's killed a shitload of people. So Yuta's going to have to fight that thing to show how strong he is. What's the deal with Rika? Yeah, basically just that. So I'm looking forward to that. Assuming that's what we get next. Who knows? Gege may just surprise us and hit us with some other shit out of nowhere. Maybe we'll check back up on Yuki and Chozo. Maybe we'll do something completely different. I don't know. But I'm quite excited to see what happens, and I hope you are too. So with that, that is all I have to say for this week's review. If you enjoyed, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click that notification bell so you don't miss any of my uploads. I do Jujutsu Kaisen chapter reactions and reviews every week. If you enjoyed discussing Jujutsu Kaisen with other people, or you just enjoy the content I produce in this channel, I highly suggest you check out my Discord server. I've linked that down in the description. And of course, if you enjoy other series such as Record of Ragnarok, Tengen Omega, Chainsaw Man, and Bleach, I do videos in those series as well, so if you're interested in those, you should definitely check out my channel. Thanks for watching, I'll see you guys around, take care.